Um, what's the link?
Oh, we're live.
Hi.
Down.
Oh, this.
Yeah. Can you just send?
Okay.
Okay, and then I'll start putting it in the chat, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, I'll leave you guys to it, yeah?
Yep.
Cool.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sorry about the technical difficulty. We're all good now. Okay, we'll just give it a minute for everybody to join. Sorry about the delay on the start time for that. We're experiencing some technical difficulties which we've resolved now. So I'll just give it a couple minutes for everybody to join. Got our tea here. Grab a cup of tea if you're watching. Okay. I think we might just get started, and we'll update people as they arrive, if any more arrive. So, kia ora everyone. My name's Helen, and I am the Employment Placement Service Trainer at Focus Futures in Wellington. I want to start off by saying that I hope everyone is dealing with the level 4, soon to be level 3 if you're not in Auckland, lockdown, and everyone's keeping high spirits. Some of my learners on the program will hopefully be watching, so hello guys. So yeah, this is a very exciting time. We're doing our first episode or special guest for our live series, Talking Futures, which is pretty much where we're getting people from the community and going live with them on Facebook to talk to them about their employment history and their careers, and pretty much just an opportunity for them to share any stories, words of wisdom for all of you out there who are looking to enter the workforce and really focusing on getting out there into the world and beginning their careers. So to start off the series, we are joined by a very special guest, Knott.
Hi.
She is a law student and part-time barista studying in Wellington. We are in the same bubble. She is my sister in actual fact. So we're family.
It's all good.
It's all good. We're in the same bubble. And we're actually in lockdown in Dunedin at the moment at our family home. So thank you so much, Mia, for joining me.
No worries, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, so pretty much how the next 45 minutes or so are going to look is we're going to be asking Mia a few questions about her life and her journey. And then every 15 minutes, we're going to review your questions. So please don't be shy. Send in any questions that you might have for Mia as she goes. Feel free, whatever you want to ask.
Anything.
Yep. It's such a good opportunity to hear first-hand account somebody who's pretty much getting into the workforce themselves. Quite a transitional period for Mia as well. And so, we really, really encourage you to ask any questions. And Alana, our operations manager, is going to be checking out all those questions and sending them through to me every 15 minutes. So we'll keep an eye on the time. And Alana, if you're watching, you can keep an eye on the time as well for me. So yeah, don't be shy, ask away. So I thought I've given you a little introduction, but I will pass it over to Mia to introduce yourself. Tell us about what you're doing at the moment, how you came to Wellington.
Okay, hi everyone. As Helen said, my name's Mia. So I'm a fifth year student at Victoria. I study law, and I study a BA in development studies as well, which is all finished now. So I'm just finishing my law degree. And I also work in a cafe as a barista, so I do that once a week. So I'm a part-time barista and a law student.
Yep. Yeah. And you moved from Dunedin to Wellington.
Yeah. So I came to Wellington as soon as I left high school. I came for first year. I moved up to Wellington. I went to a hall, and then now I've just been going through my degree, living there, and I love it. It's a great city.
Awesome. So I think one of the big questions that I want to know, maybe some other people want to know, is when you leave school, there's a lot of decisions to make, and what was the sort of deciding factor to go to uni and to study law and development studies and do it in Wellington? What was your sort of thought process around what to study?
Yeah,
perhaps?
sure. It is a huge decision. It can be very overwhelming. I remember being quite stressed, quite sort of like there's so much out there and it's quite hard to tell sometimes what
Absolutely.
you can do.
Yeah.
So I knew that I wanted to move away from home. Nothing against Dunedin. I just wanted to try somewhere new.
Yeah.
So I wanted to move to Wellington. So I was like, okay, I want to go to Victoria. Speak up.
Oh, sorry. I don't know if you can hear us.
We'll
We'll get a bit closer to the camera.
So
Is that a bit better?
I knew I wanted to go to Wellington, so I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Victoria. And then unis here are great because you don't have to decide straight away what you want to do. So I thought, I'm interested in the arts area, I'm interested in like social issues, I'm interested
Absolutely.
in history,
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, maybe I'll do a BA. But then I also had been to like a seminar or a uni open day, and I just popped into one of the law school seminars,
Yep.
and I actually thought it was really, really interesting. So I was like, maybe I'll try law. And it's great at Vic because you can do one semester of law.
Yeah.
It's just one paper
Absolutely.
while you're doing your other courses, and then you can decide if you like it or not. And if you don't, you don't have to do it. So it turned out that I actually really, really liked it.
Yeah.
I really liked what sort of skills they were teaching us and
Yeah.
what was teaching me about the world, really. So I was like, okay, I think I like this.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and get into law school and try and really do it. So
For sure.
yeah. So I didn't plan on doing law, but I just tried it out.
That's right.
And
Did you
yeah.
find that those sort of career events that were put on for you at high school, that so many of us would have attended, really were a pushing factor for you and showed you all the options that you could jump into?
I think so, yeah. I think because I wouldn't probably have done law if I hadn't gone to that event.
Absolutely.
Because I don't, it's quite hard, you don't really know about law when you're in high school because
That's true,
they don't
yeah.
teach us, it's not like science or,
Yeah.
so definitely.
Cool. And similar sort of reasoning for development studies as well.
Yeah, development studies, it's
Actually,
only
maybe
offered-
for the audience,
Yeah.
give us a little rundown of what development studies is, because a lot of people in Wellington go to study development. I did the same thing. So yeah, do you want to, in a brief...
it's quite hard to define
It's a
because it's
tricky
very,
one,
very
yeah.
broad, but essentially it's sort of, it's a really wide degree. You can take it with economics, you can take it with politics, history,
Yeah.
anthropology, geography.
Absolutely.
So I did mine with anthropology and politics, but you basically have to do these core papers that teach you about ideas around development, history of sort of development, and then some sort of broad or wider geopolitical stuff like
Yeah.
why, how certain countries have historically interacted, or why some countries are considered developing and why some countries aren't.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really broad, but I love
And
it.
I guess that paired nicely with law in that sense.
Yeah, I
So
think
both
so.
are.
I think law is pretty good with anything actually.
Yeah.
But for me, like for what I'm interested in, they were a really good combo.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome. And that was another reason why I studied development, I guess, was because I'm interested in languages, and I realised you could do languages with this with this degree, so that was quite exciting for me. So you moved to Wellington.
Yeah.
And living in Wellington, I'm sure we can relate. It's quite expensive as a student.
Yeah.
We've got these student loans, and you're paying to study. So I know a lot of people that go to university, including yourself, get straight into the workforce.
Yeah.
In sort of part-time casual employment. So what did that look like for you when you first arrived?
Yeah, sure. So I moved up to Wellington and I went straight into a hall, which I think if it's an option, it's a really great one. If it's possible for you, it means you get to meet lots of people, people in the same sort of situation as you. It's really fun. And I didn't sort of move up and think right away I want to get a job. But I had been, I think it was about 4 months after I moved up. I was just looking, I think I was on a Instagram page actually. I was just looking at this bakery's Instagram page.
Yeah.
And I saw that they were advertising.
That's right.
And I'd been in there and I really loved the bakery. And I was
you did love
particularly
that.
this is so
cafe.
cute. Like I love the little cafe. It was a cafe that sold cupcakes, and coffee and cake, and all of these were really.
It's a very
cute little cafe.
pretty cafe with like nice string lights and
super a really gorgeous little cafe. So I had been like, oh, this is really cute. I really like this. And then I was looking at their social medias and I saw that they were hiring, and they were hiring for I think it was advertised 1 day a week, no coffee experience required. And I was like, okay, like I should probably apply for this job. I would probably love this job, and I think that because I would love it, I think I'd be good at it.
And it was a cool way for you to get into the barista scene with that experience, to be honest.
For sure.
But you had done a coffee
I'd done the
course.
one that you can do at school, the level 1 one.
Yeah.
I didn't have any. I'd never worked as a barista before. The jobs that I'd had in high school were like admin jobs, or I worked in like a retail shop.
That's right.
So I had a little bit of customer service experience, but I'd never done barista work, and they were advertising that you didn't need experience, that they would train us.
Awesome.
So that was cool. Yeah.
So for those of the people on the EPS program who have done the barista training course, me is a good example of someone who did the course, and then when you get into your workplace or into a cafe that you would want to work at, they sort of teach you the ropes of what happens in their cafe. So that's a good thing to remember. But it was great for you to have those fundamental
for sure
barista skills.
So they
as
actually sent us, they paid us to train.
Yeah.
And they sent, it was me and another girl, and they sent us to Supreme Coffee in Wellington, who put us through the full training, much like what you're probably getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah. At
that's right.
Focus
The good old barista training course.
That was awesome. But I mean, realistically, when you learn to make coffee, you don't really learn to make coffee properly until you're
under the pump,
until you're working,
having to make 10 coffees in
I mean that's
in minutes.
The best way to get good at making coffee is just by making coffee, and you do that when you're working. You make 20 coffees, and you know. And
it's good to hear that. I mean, when you first went into your first coffee job with that cafe, with that bakery, was there anxiety? Like, what was the biggest challenge going into that one? Because you know, you're quite good, you're good with people, and so you had those communication skills.
Yeah,
so.
I wasn't so being nervous about serving customers. The coffee was the thing that I was the most nervous about. So
I think a lot of people would be in the same boat.
Yeah,
because it's quite a skill, and especially in Wellington,
there's a high standard of coffee of barista skills in Wellington. So I was a little bit nervous, but I did feel like I had a really good grounding with my training. So I was like, okay, I know all the theory. Now I just have to get practically good at it. And I was working with other people, so I could sort of be like, does this look all right? Does this look like how the milk should be? How do you do it? Can you show me how you do it? And then gradually, just from practice, I just got better at it.
Yeah. And do you think it's sort of like a nice thing to have under your belt, having experience in a cafe in Wellington, because of the sort of...
I do feel...
Because Wellington is the coffee scene, the coffee capital of the world, some might say.
Yeah.
So it must be quite a nice feeling.
I do, yeah. I feel like I've had a really good coffee training experience.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
all different, because like all different sorts of coffee as well, because people here drink a lot of different coffee.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So following that barista job, you tell us what happened next.
Yeah, so I got that job in first year, and then I sort of managed to sort of negotiate with them because I would come back to Dunedin for the summertime.
That's right, yeah.
So I was like, look, because it was a perfect job for me, because law school was really intense. Uni was quite intense, so I was like, I don't think I can probably work more than one shift a week, just with the amount of work that it was, turns out that I had to put into my study for the sort of level that I wanted to be studying at. So I was like, okay, I'm going to say I'm probably not going to try and work more than one shift a week. So I talked to my manager, I talked to my boss. It was quite a small team, so there was really good communication, and I was like, look, I really love working here. I really want to keep this job.
Yeah.
What can I sort of do to be able to go home for the summer, but also come back next year while I'm studying and do the one shift a week?
And you were lucky in the way, by the sounds of it, you were lucky in the way that you had that close connection with your employer. You were able to keep those lines of communication open, because that's one of the major challenges for university students or people who are, maybe doing a few jobs at once, is really making sure that they keep their time management, and I think that's one of the questions as well, which we'll definitely touch on soon, is juggling that work uni lifestyle, and what skills help each other, and what are the challenges of that. But I think we might actually have a moment for questions. If Alana, I'll just get Alana to send me some questions. Oh, it's great to see you guys sending in some of your questions. I think we might have... We can probably just... Yep. So one of the questions we have... it's a good question. Thanks, Nate. So we've got one about what do you love most about your job as a barista? It might be helpful to talk about your new barista position.
So,
I'm a bit closer.
yeah, sorry.
Hope you can hear us.
So I've got a new job now in a different cafe. Still working one shift a week.
Yep.
It's a little bit of a busier cafe, and I work with a slightly bigger team. But I really love being a barista. Like, I really love making coffee. It's a very practical skill. You're doing something, you're making something for people, but also the customers are just great, because they're really excited to get their coffee. And the place that I work, we have a lot of regulars, so I get to know them. I know their orders, and people sort of use it as their little break from work. So they come in and they come and chat to you.
True. Everybody loves going in for their coffee.
Yeah. So it's really nice. I just love talking to customers. I like actually making coffee, because it's a skill.
Actually, Blair asked, what's your coffee speciality? Thanks, Blair.
I really like making lattes. I'm trying to get better at latte art. I'm still not very good.
Oh, you're pretty good.
But it's fun.
You're better than me at latte art.
I like making lattes, and
what's your favourite design?
My favourite is a little a fern or a tulip. I'm not really sure what they're called.
Oh, the starting from...
Yeah, there's one like a fern that I like to do.
That was a quick demonstration of how you do that.
And then there's one where you do like 3 little...
Oh, yeah.
Dollops, and then you do a little... It's like a flower.
Yeah. We've been doing a bit of lockdown coffee making.
Yeah.
but it is slightly, there's different technique to the smaller home.
We have a temperamental home
machine. It's extremely temperamental, but Mia has been sort of instructing the whole family on
We're
how
trying to get the best coffee out of that machine.
Yeah, so there's a lot of trial and error with the new machine. It's not the good commercial one.
The customers is what I like most about being a barista. I like chatting to customers, and
awesome.
It's just nice. Cafes are great. They're a really lovely environment to work. They can get hectic, but
and you must have your regulars.
Yeah.
And the ones you can say hello to all the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we'll grab another couple of questions. So some that are a little bit more about your university and your law degree especially. So we have a question asking what you're going to be doing with your law degree. Is this a touchy subject?
That is the question of the hour.
Yeah,
I'm not really sure yet. I think that a law degree is great. I think it's given me a skill set that I can take a lot of places.
Absolutely.
So obviously I could be a lawyer, or I'm quite interested in working around policy or just working around the law. I think generally I love the idea of working for an NGO.
Absolutely.
But I'm not really, I think I'm not sure if I want to be a lawyer quite yet. I think it's definitely a possibility for me, but I'm also open to other avenues. So I'm sort of in the process. I'm just seeing what's going to happen.
You've got a diverse range of skills from both the law and the development studies Bachelor of Arts, and also all your barista skills, which and we're going to definitely talk about how all of those skills are transferable and help each other. Cool. Yeah. So we've got another question about the hall, and do you want to tell us about what hall you went to and what that was like? Maybe what it was like working and going to and living in a hall and doing uni.
Yeah.
It's quite a juggle.
Yeah, so uni halls were great. Uni halls are like, it's usually for first years.
Yeah.
So somewhere where first years live, so they feed you. It's usually near the campus, so that's quite easy. And they obviously, like, you don't have to worry about, like, if you're flatting, you'd be paying your bills, but with the uni hall,
you have
they sort of take the admin out.
Endless
of that.
heating.
Yeah. So it's quite a cool transitionary place to live while you're kind of learning how to not live at home.
Absolutely, it's sort of like that stepping stone into being an adult.
Yeah. So I was at Warehouse in Wellington. So I was right up near the uni. It was 5 minutes to uni.
Yeah.
It was great. It wasn't too far away from. I think it took me about 20 or 30 minutes to walk to the cafe that I worked at. And I used to work every Sunday.
Were there any challenges being in a hall of residence?
Just generally.
That you look back on,
I wouldn't say it was super challenging. I mean, you are living with like 300 people.
That's true.
So that's
it's
quite
like a big
like
house.
A different experience.
Big household.
And you're just sort of dealing with the normal challenges of having left home. So learning about how to sort of manage your money more. That was one of the reasons that I got the job, because I was like, I think I want a little bit of extra, spending money so that I can do things. And to pay for textbooks and stuff.
For sure, and I think that's what a lot of people encounter is how you can best support yourself, maybe when you're studying at university, at Whitirea, at Massey, anywhere you're studying, there's definitely a sort of laying out your budget, looking at your expenses, especially after you leave the hall when you're paying for your accommodation and your bills and all of that. So yeah, for sure, that's interesting that you said that played a big role in getting that job. I also might. Okay, we've got another question. Do you have to get StudyLink as well in addition to working? That's another question.
Yeah, I do. So StudyLink is good for rent, and then working, because I only work one shift a week. That's sort of like all my additional costs, like groceries and stuff like that.
And of course, there's a trade-off, and it's another question. Muteb asked how you can manage between your study and having a part-time job, because I can imagine that studying law and development studies would be full on as well as working. And I think this would be interesting to talk to you about how you negotiate hours and how much you're making each week, plus study link. How much can you push? It's a real balancing act, isn't it? So do you want to talk about that? How that worked?
It's definitely full on. Studying full time, anything is pretty full on. Especially because as a student, like, it's not like high school. You have to manage all of your time. You decide exactly when you're working. So I think that from the first job that I got in Wellington, I sort of decided I can work one shift a week, paid work, and then everything else is going to be. And then I sort of treated my study like a full-time job, so I would try and go to uni this didn't,
but you did pretty well
all the time, but
pretty diligent.
If you sort of think, okay, I'm going to do 9 to 5 at uni, then you feel like you're going to work, and then I would work one day a week, and then so I did that pretty much. I worked at that first cafe for about 3 years, 3 or 4 years, because they were really great at letting me go home over the summer, or I would pick up. Also, if I was staying in Wellington, I would go full time with them over summer. And then I left that job, and I got the job that I'm in now. And
so tell us a little bit about
so I got that job. I got this job the summer that's just been. So I started working for them full time because I wasn't studying.
And what was the application process
for that one? It was
into that cafe.
I think I found it on Seek or something. And I just sent my cover letter and my CV in, and then I went in to see him, and then I started working the next day.
That's right. I remember that all happened quite quickly. And
that usually, often with barista jobs, they'll trial you. So I did I think a 30 or 40 minute trial after the interview, and basically what happens when you do that, because I've tried for a couple of cafes, is it's just like you're working there. So they just explain where everything is, they show you how the orders go through, and then you just start making orders for real customers.
Do you have any advice for people maybe getting barista jobs on their trial? Do you have any advice? What would you say going into that?
I think definitely ask any questions that you need to be really sure of where the orders are coming from, what cups they use, what their abbreviations are for their coffees. If you're a little bit unsure where something is, just ask.
Great advice.
Because otherwise you won't be able to sort of work as well as you might, because you don't know what's going on. So make sure you're really solid on what sort of your instructions are. Absolutely. And also ask any questions about the machine, because often coffee machines will be different. I know, I've worked on a couple of coffee machines, and they've all been different. So they've all had different buttons. They've had different some of them have a manual grind, some of them have an automatic grind. The one that I'm on at the moment is almost completely automatic. So it's got an automatic grind, and it's got an automatic shot. So you just press. It's really easy. But make sure you understand the machine. And just be yourself, because they want to know what you like to work with. So just be, enthusiastic, and show that you're willing to learn about if they have any special drinks,
Absolutely.
Just show enthusiasm.
Awesome, thank you. That's some great pockets of advice for those.
Another thing I would say
about
about this job that I got is I started working in the summertime. So I was working full time, but right from when I applied, when I was first having that first conversation in my interview, I said to my boss, I said, I'm going to be on my summer break up until this date, and then from then I'm going back full time to uni. So right from the start, I tried to make it really clear that my availability would be 1 day a week once I went back to uni, because I really wanted to make sure that he knew who he was hiring in terms of how much I would be available, and I wanted to make sure that that, you know, I had been super clear about that, because
Absolutely.
you don't want confusion there, because you don't want someone running a business to prepare for you to be available for a year's worth of
So
full-time
maintaining
work.
that transparency.
Yeah. And I think
the whole
that
process.
employers really appreciate that, you know,
For sure.
if you're super clear and super communicative about your availability and you know, what your plans are.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you for that advice.
So good.
So I think we're gonna move on in this section. I just want to sort of talk to you a little bit about slightly more directed for our job seekers out there, but for anyone as well, actually. What skills you've learnt with the experience you've had, and I think a good way to start this, and any advice you might have for the job seeking process, getting into work, and I think a good question we can start that off with, that we've just got in, is from Carrie. What makes you get up in the morning? And as a person, what is your passion?
It's a big question.
It's a big question.
Okay. Yeah, good question. I would say, I think, I'm not sure what really makes me get up in the morning, but generally I think I like learning about things. I would say I have quite a curiosity to learn about things.
Absolutely.
It doesn't really matter what it is. I like to try and stay like interested. I think it's really good to be interested in things, because it can motivate you to learn about stuff, and it really opens you up to all different areas of the world that you might not have first known about. So I think having sort of being curious, and sort of trying to pursue things that actually you find really interesting, that personally you really like.
For sure.
I think that's a great thing to try
and that's a really important thing to remember when you're going to work or you're choosing lines of study, is what you're saying about choose something you really love, or you have a passion about, or a curiosity for, to motivate.
I think that's super important, because you're going to be good, you're going to be better at things that you like or are interested in, because
Absolutely,
it's going to drive you. So I think that being curious and being interested, and I also think meeting people and making connections with people. I think that's one of the things that I'm really trying to do as much as I can. It's hard with COVID.
It is. But we can do virtual.
We've got the internet,
yeah, like this.
So, and that helps, you know, like you learn about areas of the world and about people and about jobs that you might never have known about if you meet new people.
For sure.
So it's and you learn about yourself as well. So I think those two things, being curious and meeting new people.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great reason to get up in the morning. Cool. So we've got another question which actually really fits with that idea of any advice entering workforce or new career paths. So Mutub asks, is saying that many jobs have a technical terminology to them that you have to use. So do people need to learn those terms in order to apply and enter a certain industry, or just simply be open to learning and go ahead and apply anyway? Great question. Thanks, Mutub.
I think you don't have to learn them before you apply, because I think you need to be open to learning them. I mean, there's heaps of stuff I didn't know about coffee. I didn't even know how to make coffee when I first applied. So, but I think just from my experience, I think what people want to see is that you're willing to learn and you're willing to work hard to learn, or you have a work ethic, you know. So, no, I would just go ahead and apply, and it's you can just, as long as you ask questions and sort of put in the effort to learn. If there are technical things that you need to learn, that's definitely like a great place to start. I don't think you should not apply for somewhere because you feel like you don't know the technical terms. I mean, like, it's not a job, but when I first started law, they make you read these things, and it's like a different language, and they don't teach you everything. You just sort of read and you learn. So I think, I don't think anyone's expected to know absolutely everything or all the technical terminology before they.
Absolutely, it's like entering, any job for the first time. You're gonna, when you start the job, you're gonna learn all of this new sort of vocabulary or terminology and way of speaking, shortcuts. I know for this job there was a bunch of acronyms, so many that I had no idea, and I was sort of like furiously writing them down, like I'm sure you were doing for law as well, just trying to remember them all, and then gradually it just becomes easier and easier. So I think like what you were saying, it's really good to just be brave, take the leap, and just show that motivation to learn.
And I think questions are like a really great thing. Like,
absolutely.
If you've got someone asking questions, then you know that they want to learn the thing and that they're sort of thinking about what they might need to know and being prepared. So that's one of the things that I do. When I start a new job, I just ask heaps of questions.
As you should, for sure.
Because it's much better to be asking questions than to be not asking questions and not doing something right. So you should just ask lots of questions and be willing to learn.
Yeah, for sure. So I thought we might. Sorry, I'm reading some of the questions as well. They're looking good. So I thought maybe I might ask you about some of your strengths and your weaknesses or skills that you've learned and challenges that you've encountered during both work and study, and how these are different, or maybe how these have helped one another. Because they're different. You're in different spaces with your law study and your barista experience. So what would you say your skills have been from that?
I think studying anything at university gives you some really good time management skills. If you can crack it, you get some good time management skills. It sort of does chuck you in the deep end a bit, but I feel like I've learned some really good skills in that area, especially because law's quite a high workload. It's quite a heavy workload, so we have to do a lot of reading, a lot of lectures. So in that sense, I feel like I've learned how to manage my time, sort of figuring out how you've got to learn how you work, and you've got to apply that to how you're going to manage your time. So it's like, if I think a case is going to take me an hour to read, but then I read it and it takes me 2 hours, I've just got to remember that and be like, okay, this is how much I'm going to set to achieve today. So learning that about yourself, I think learning how you work.
For sure. There's nothing like university to teach you time management.
Also learning how you learn, so understanding the best ways that information can get into your brain. I think that's really helped. Generally with law, I think I've learned a bit more about how the world actually works in terms of government, how laws actually work in our society. I would have hoped I'd learned that.
Yeah, me too. You're in your last year.
Some really important reading and writing skills, I think. So how to read a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. How to write really efficiently. How to communicate really efficiently what you're trying to say. And
so
then
a lot of technical skills.
And then from my BA, a lot of analytical stuff, how to do research. University is great for that stuff.
Sure.
More practically, from being a barista, I've definitely learnt a lot about customer service.
For sure.
So how to talk to customers. When you first start, it can be a little bit hard, or a little bit nerve-wracking, but once you're used to it, it's just automatic, and you're just talking to customers while you're making coffee. You develop all these little phrases,
and so
little questions to ask. And it's so natural. So definitely learnt a lot about customer service. Also practical skills. So practical skills, how to make coffee, and then practical time management skills. So time management skills within 1 hour. So I've got to make 20 coffees, and I've got to chop this up for the chef, and I've got to clean this table. So uni taught me how to manage my time studying over a week, and making coffee taught me how to manage my time in 1 hour to be the most efficient and, you know, the most useful and get everyone there.
Because it's just really fast paced. I mean, they're both fast paced, but in different sort of ways. And a good question that's just come in as well. How do those skills sort of link? Like, for example, is there a skill at university that you really have transferred to your barista making skills?
Ooh. Actually, it's not quite barista making skills, but I do feel like having studied law helps me when I'm talking to my employers.
Oh, for sure.
So when I'm sort of if I read my contract, or when I was negotiating with my boss about, this is when I'm going to be
my
available,
contract, or when I read your friend's contracts,
having your obligations are, that's one thing that's really helped me, and it makes me feel confident going into job applications. Like, the employer has all of the sort of, what would you say, power. But it's really great to know your rights as an employee, to know what your contract looks like, to know if you want to change your contract.
Absolutely.
To have that confidence.
That's some great advice for when you get a job, and when you're sort of navigating the initial steps when you first get your employment. It can be quite daunting, and you get a contract shoved in your face, and so yeah, like you're saying, that's really important to remember. Keep the communication open with your employer, build a good relationship, and read your contract.
Remember
check with people around you.
When you get your contract,
read it.
You can get someone else to read it. You don't have to sign it right away. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, definitely that's one way it's crossed, I think.
That's definitely crossed over.
Yeah.
Cool.
Also forming relationships in the university context.
Yeah.
I've definitely sort of used skills that I've learned in a customer service situation.
Yeah.
To be able to, because you want to make connections at universities with tutors. So knowing how to talk to people is a great skill to have.
Yeah, and that's been super
so
transferable.
I try to do that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, as you can all see, there's a bunch of skills that anywhere you learn that from wherever you've learnt them, you can really transfer to other environments, other working places, study, barista jobs. Awesome. So I think we will finish up with maybe. Oh, we had a good question about: have you ever felt like giving up before? And maybe in terms of your study or the work that you do, and how did you overcome these thoughts and sort of motivate yourself to keep you going during those times? Because I know that law's been super, super challenging. As a family member, we've all found law very challenging.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely found law. I mean, I still do find it challenging. I found law school pretty challenging. I think that's normal. I don't know.
Absolutely.
It didn't come as naturally to me as it might have to other students, but like, I still really liked it, and I still really liked the skills that it was giving me. I think I've definitely felt like giving up, because it is hard and it's a lot of work. But I always had this sort of idea that I just had the goal. I had the goal of getting my law degree. Yeah. So even when I didn't really like it, which was, or it got really tough, or there was a lot of assessments, it was just like, well, I just want to get my law degree. So I had that goal. And I think another thing is having other parts of your life that you enjoy and that you can go to when, your work or your study is quite challenging, because it means, gives you a bit of relief, and it sort of it balances out. So it means not everything is about study or work, and it's not the end of the world if something goes wrong in one of those areas.
Yeah, I think that's really important, having that balance, so that you can take a step back and do something that you really enjoy, and there's going to be not a lot of pressure to, just to have a little bit of a breath of fresh air and a relief from those really intense moments that you might find yourself in at work or in study. So what's that look like for you? What's your sort of escape? I know what it is, but I'm going to ask you.
Well, I listen to a lot of music.
Yep. That's what I was thinking.
I hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
It's good to, you want to be social.
For sure.
I play bass guitar, so I do that. And one of my other things is I really like cooking. So I cook a lot. So I cook for Helen when I get stressed.
It's great for me. I mean, it's a wonderful setup for me.
Yeah.
I benefit from that.
I think also knowing, I know how sort of assignments are going to go for me. So I know it's going to be really, really tough. I might have a little breakthrough.
Absolutely.
And then it's going to be tough again, and then it's going to be finished,
And that's
so
goes
you can expect
hand in hand with what you were saying, right, about knowing the way you learn and knowing what's going to be out in front of you and how to best deal with that. And the coping mechanisms, that's awesome. So a bit of creativity in there as well, just keep you sane.
Be creative, do the things that you really like, go outside,
We have a little question here, which I think is a great one. Thank you, Shekinah. Do you have any role models that you look up to? That's a good question.
Ooh. I'm not sure. Well, mum and dad.
Nice.
Our parents.
They'll be happy. They can probably hear us in our bubble.
I really like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's an American politician. She's a big advocate for the environment and for social justice. So I like her. I think she works really hard as well. But she's also sort of, I feel like she's in touch with how young people experience life. So that makes me feel sort of seen.
Absolutely, She's awesome.
I'm not sure actually. I don't have any sort of serious role models.
It's the people around you,
people
your
around me,
friends,
all my
been
friends,
really, really motivating as well.
Sort of because I feel like my friends are in lots of different areas, so seeing them sort of excel in their areas. I mean, Helen.
She has to say
nice
that.
to see her as well.
I was waiting for okay.
I think seeing people in my life who are in all different areas of work, whether that be creative or, things that are really different to what I do.
It's cool to surround yourself with people that are in different areas, and that's why it's so cool as well. Even just seeing on the EPS course, a bunch of different people who are all great and have different skill sets and different interests, and I think it's a really great environment to sort of cultivate that motivation and inspire each other.
For sure.
Even if you're not in the same field, it's a really cool way to just draw on other people's interests and learn new things from each other. So
and I think it's really cool. It's a really real sort of representation of how people's careers and work journeys go, because sometimes your friends will have a really big career high, or they'll do something really good, and that will be great, and other times it won't be, something might go wrong, or they won't get something that they wanted. But when you're surrounded by people that are all doing different things, you can see that it goes like this, and it's not, if something doesn't go your way, it's not going to be forever.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really nice way. You can just finish up maybe with your 3 pieces of advice for those of us who are watching, who are sort of entering the workforce in the process of getting into employment, following their career aspirations. So if you have maybe a couple of pieces of advice for meeting employers, and what do you think is most important in that stage of getting a job?
So I think the first thing is be really open and eager. So be open to a range of different jobs or different areas.
Absolutely.
And be sort of enthusiastic. So eager to learn about that area, eager to work hard.
For sure.
Because sometimes it's hard to know what's out there. So if you just stay open to a huge range of things and try not to go too, restrict yourself too much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to try and do.
Awesome.
What else?
I'll write
You're right. I would say definitely be yourself. From my experience, most employers will want to employ you, not someone else. So make sure you show them who you are.
That's right.
Be yourself when you meet them. I think that's a good thing to remember.
Awesome.
And read your contracts. Read your contracts.
Okay, Mrs. Lawyer.
Yeah.
Awesome. Those are some great pieces of advice, and thank you so much. I think we're going to wrap it up here. Sorry again for those technical difficulties at the beginning. We're a little bit new to this whole series, so shouldn't have those difficulties next time. But yeah, thank you so much, Mia.
You're welcome.
It's been so awesome to learn about your journey and your interesting balance of university, studying law, making coffee, barista jobs, and living in Wellington, and some of those skills that you've obtained through all of that. And some great advice, being open, enthusiastic, and confident, reading your contract, and of course just being yourself. So I think that's been an awesome opportunity for all of the people on my EPS course. Hopefully they've taken some advice or maybe been a bit inspired by hearing your story. And thank you guys all for tuning in and engaging and asking some great questions. So tune in again on Thursday for another little episode of this series. Hope you all enjoyed and have a good rest of your lockdown day.
Thank you for watching.
Thanks, guys. Bye.